Hi, everybody. This is Ethan Rosenzweig. I'm the Dean of Admission and Financial Aid here at Emory Law. Thanks so much for joining us for this invitation-only chat where I'm going to talk about maximizing your financial aid and your scholarship award specifically when applying here at Emory. Now, just a few notes. I know it's a very winter stormy day for many of you around the country. It is actually pretty nice here. It's about 50 degrees and sunny, so we don't have any of the weather issues. But if you are having technology issues, all you need to do is simply click the green Q&A button on the left of your screen, and someone will be sure to help you out. Also, throughout the presentation, this should be less than about an hour. I think it'll take about 45 minutes maximum for this presentation. If you have questions as we're going on, please click that green Q&A button because we have some senior staff members here at the university who can help answer your questions as I'm going through the presentation. And then at the end of the presentation, you can click that button again and answer any more questions that you have. We'll be sure to make sure we answer them for you. Also, if you have any questions after the presentation, you can email me directly at jdadmission@emory.edu. Again, that's jdadmission@emory.edu. All right, let's get started and talk about how you can maximize your chances for financial aid here at Emory Law. We look at 5 areas when we're evaluating your file. We look at your LSAT and your GPA, your personal statement, letters of recommendation, your resume, and what we call Emory connectivity, or your desire to attend Emory. These 5 areas are critical in our determining what your scholarship is going to be. In addition, you want to try to maximize your potential in any of those areas, in every one of those areas, to make sure that we can give you as much money as possible. Now, the first element that we look at, your LSAT and GPA, none of you on this presentation need to worry about. All of you have an academic credential that we like, that we saw based on the LSAC's candidate referral service, so there is no reason for you to have to worry. We think there's something that attracts you to us and attracts us to you, we hope. So the only note here I want to tell you is that we look at your highest score. So if you got a 165 on the LSAT and you take it again and you get a 162, that's okay because we're just going to look at the 165. There is no need to submit an addendum because, again, we're looking at the highest score. Now, I know what you might say, well, I got the 162 first and then I got the 165. Again, we're going to look at your highest score. If you went to a 165 to a 167, we're going to look at your highest score. And again, I know a lot of people worry about this. I got a 165 and I wanted to raise it, but instead it went down. That's okay. We're still going to look at your highest score. So no need to worry. You have a credential that we are very interested in, which is why I've asked you to join me today to talk about how to get the most scholarship from us. The main area that we can see improvement for people who are scholarship worthy is your personal statement. Now, I'm going to spend a few minutes on this area because it's my favorite area, and it's the one that I see a lot of room for growth. So last year, we received over 4,000 personal statements, and we only pulled aside about 3 or 4 that were our favorites. I wish we could have pulled aside like 20 of them. What that tells me is that there's a lot of room for improvement and growth, and I want to give you a few tips here to help you maximize your potential. If we had interviews, which we don't, we would want to know why and how can Emory help you achieve your law school goals. So, if we read your essay out loud, it would take us about 10 minutes. So what I like to tell people when you're writing your essay or your personal statement is think about me taking you to Starbucks, and what would you tell me in that first 10 minutes of our conversation when we're waiting for our lattes and our iced teas and everything to get ready? What would you tell me while we're waiting? That's the moment that you have my attention and you spark my interest. That's the 10-minute window where we want you to really smack us hard and give us a big attention-grabbing opener and let us know how we can help you achieve your goals. Quick note, we want a 2-page personal statement, 2 pages max, and any font that you choose that is readable. We trust your judgment on what readable means, as well as making sure it's double-spaced and has decent margins. Make it easy for me to get excited about you. Now, I keep talking about the attention-grabbing opener, so with that said, I wanted to read you one that I thought did a great job. This was from 2 years ago. All right, I'll read you a part of this essay. A $3.52 reimbursement check. That was the result of my first successfully fought case at the age of 9. The premise was false advertising. After shampooing my hair and trying to style it in an attempt to make it look like Madonna, I soon realized my efforts were going to be fruitless. It was at this point that I called customer service and complained. Victory came in the words of, "We will reimburse you for the amount you paid for the shampoo." While seemingly trivial, this may in retrospect have been the first step on my journey to pursue law. Why do we like that beginning? Well, it gave us a little vignette. It made us smile a little bit. It also framed the fact that this applicant wanted to be an advocate, wanted to pursue some type of oral advocacy. Not all lawyers are oral advocates, but this one was. It was a little funny. It wasn't laugh out loud, but it gave me a little vignette to allow me to want to read more about the applicant. So lesson 1, when you're trying to maximize your financial aid, have a great opener for your personal statement to make me excited to keep reading. Sometimes it's easier for us to tell you what not to do as well as give you tips along the way. So here are some essays that I see every year. I see dozens, if not hundreds of these essays, and I cringe because the student has great academic credentials, but the personal statement does not maximize their chances for us to give them the highest scholarship possible. So the first one where I cringe is what I call the resume essay. So we're going to talk about in a few minutes how to write a very effective resume to help your financial aid potential. What ends up happening in the resume essay is that you spend the exact same amount of paper writing your resume in narrative form. So, in the first paragraph, you talk about being the band leader your junior year in college and how important that was to you. And then in the second paragraph, you talk about how you were the student government representative for the senior class and how you really enjoy leadership. And in the third paragraph, you talk about a community service project you organized and how much public interest means to you. That's great, but we read all about that in your resume. So I cringe because you've just lost 2 pages, or what I call 10 minutes of my time if I read the application out loud, to tell me more about you and more reasons for me to give you more scholarship. So if you're going to write about an activity from your resume, make sure you're expanding on it and answering for me why this activity connects to the reasons you want to go to law school and enjoy a legal career. Another essay that I cringe is when people use inappropriate humor. I love humor. I love to be laughing, and I like people that are witty. But be careful because sometimes written humor does not come across the way because we don't have inflection or tone. Let me read you one that I don't think really worked. All right, you ready? Let me read this. Unlike the other essays that you may read, I didn't study in Costa Rica to save the whales, nor did I spend my summers distributing contraceptives in Africa. Nope, I suppose I am not as accomplished as my colleagues. And the student wrote colleagues in quote. I know what the student was trying to do here, what the applicant was attempting, which was to say I may not have had all the experiences that other people around me have, but I still have important contributions to the law. Well, you can say that without ridiculing somebody else. So please, please, please be careful with inappropriate humor, because when I read that, I say, why do I want to reward that essay with more scholarship money? Let's beware of another type of essay, which is what I call the cut and paste essay. This is where a student is trying to prove to us that they are excited about Emory, and so what they do is they take a piece of information about Emory and they just paste it in their essay. I'll read you one. Emory is the right fit for me because of the access to all the resources of Atlanta, one of the nation's fastest growing metropolitan areas. Well, yeah, that's true, and I'm glad you know about Atlanta, but I wrote that sentence on our website, so I'm curious why the person is pasting it into their essay. I think a smarter way would be to discuss how Emory can help you broadly achieve where you want to go legally. And then finally, be careful of the what I call the what I did last summer essay. I see this a lot when I can tell someone's rushing their essay in to meet a deadline. So what the person does is talks about experience that they did a summer in college. Usually it's about being a server at a restaurant like TGI Fridays and how they learned so much and it wasn't fair how compensation worked and how tipping worked. And I love those essays because I love going out to eat. And I like to know that the servers care, and I love TGI Fridays. But it had nothing to do with law school. So I'm like, wait a second. Why are you telling me all this? So I read this essay, and I'm like, that was interesting, but why did you tell me this? So again, let's just be careful with those. Now I want to read to you one of my favorite essays, or at least parts of it. Don't worry, I'm not going to read the whole essay to you. And put together why this essay, after we read it, we decided should get the most scholarship money we could give a student. All right, here's the first paragraph. The middle of three brothers, I spent a lot of time alone. I read countless books, tried a bit of writing, and gradually came to the conclusion held by solitary people that I was a genius surrounded by idiots. I clung to this delusion for years and spent most of my childhood in that wonderful state of narcissistic repose, dreaming about the inevitable day when I would become president, or more desirably, a Willy Wonka-like board game creator. I had already invented a hybrid chess Monopoly board game that would certainly make me famous. All right, that was, to us, an interesting opening. The student had some self-deprecating humor. Now, some people may say, well, you just told us to be careful with humor. Now, humor can work when you're talking about yourself probably a little more effectively than ridiculing other applicants. So I like that. Also like the fact that the student used an oxymoron to say that they were a popular person who was surrounded by idiots and very lonely. That was intriguing, as well as how the student was going to be a Willy Wonka board game creator. Now, we know in reality that's not going to happen, but at least it gave us a little personality of who the applicant was. So I wanted to learn more about the applicant, and that's why I kept reading, and I was excited to learn more about this person. So I'll keep going to give you a little taste. Now I am 24 years old. I have lived a bit more, failed some, dated a girl, and I can describe myself more realistically than I could back then. Among the things I have learned is I am smart but not a genius. I am a good writer but can do better, and I'm not original. Indeed, according to Google, I am not even the most impressive Jason Goldberg in the world. That honor belongs to Dr. Jason Goldberg, president of a large investment company and possessor of a Harvard PhD. All right, so the student now has told us how they've matured, still has a little humor in there. The student talks about knowing they want to grow. So what this tells us when we're reading it is that this student is open to feedback and learning more about what it takes to be an effective lawyer. Still, I don't see the connectivity of why the student wants to go to law school. So I'm hoping I'll see that at the end of the essay so that we can make sure the student gets all the resources possible to make his legal career as efficient as possible, financially efficient. So this last part really sums up the student's essay. This brings me to why I want to go to law school. I have grown enough as a person to know that there is no perfect life awaiting me around the corner. But I do think that a degree from Emory Law will give me the credentials, skills, and flexibility to achieve the type of challenging and meaningful professional life that I have always desired. Very straightforward. Now, I know people are saying, well, he doesn't talk about Emory Law specifically, doesn't talk about our programs. That's true. Now, what we know is over 60% of the students that attend Emory want to go to a top law school like us, and they're looking for certain skills, such as advocacy skills, writing skills, persuasive analytical thinking skills. And the student talks about looking for more of that. So while the student doesn't talk specifically about programs, which may have been nicer to get, they talk general enough about how law school can help him meet his goals that it excited us for him to be part of our community. So as soon as I finished that essay, I said to everybody, I want this student. I don't care what we do. We've got to get him here. That's what I want you to do when you're applying so that I can advocate for the most scholarship possible. Now, I've gone over a lot of material here, so if you have questions about your personal statement, please ask them now on the Q&A button. And again, we have some senior admission staff members here who are ready to answer those questions. And I'm going to keep moving on to letters of recommendation, because there is nothing else that we love more than reading letters of recommendation that champion you. If there is anything I leave you with today about trying to get the most money possible, is that our letter of recommendation doesn't just recommend you. We get about 4,000 of those a year. We only get a handful that champion you. So how do you know if a recommender has done that? My first tip is to see if you can get a copy of the letter that the person wrote. Now, I know that LSEC asks you to waive your right to the letters, but you don't have to. And more importantly, someone that has championed you wants to share that gift with you. They want to say, hey, I spent all this time writing about you because I love you. You're the best. So I want you to have a copy so I can show you. Here's my gift to you about how I can help you get into law school. If someone is hesitant to give you that letter, I would argue you may want to look somewhere else. The letter may help you get into a school, but it doesn't maximize your financial aid. Now, we're looking for academic letters. We require at least one academic letter, and the other one doesn't have to be. But what I've noticed is that students that have 2 academic letters that champion them tend to get the higher scholarships. It's not automatic, but I've seen that trend because you're applying to be a professional student. So we want to know how you've done in the professional classroom setting. Let me read you a letter of recommendation from a student who didn't have all the credentials we were looking for academically, but whose letter helped us determine that they should still get the maximum scholarship possible. So let me read this letter from about 3 years ago. Indeed, it's clear to me that Sally is going to be snapped up by any number of law schools. But I see in Emory a good match for her talents and interests, and I would like to have her studying there because of the success other graduates have had at Emory, both in the classroom and in their subsequent careers around the Emory area. In one measure, this can be a very simple letter for me to write. In over 30 years of recommending students for graduate study, Sally Smith is possibly the best I've ever sent to a law school. That's all we needed to know. We saw that letter, we read that paragraph, and there were no other questions. Now, let me also, for fun, let you know that there are some letters you don't want to have sent. And when we get these letters, we cringe because while it may not affect your admission, it definitely affects how much scholarship we're going to offer you. So I'll read you one where, to this day, I still can't believe that it was sent in to us. All right, here we go. In sum, while I cannot recommend Harry to one of the top 10 law schools in the United States, I believe he will do quite well at Emory. Whoa, 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 whoa! First of all, we're a top 19 school, so I don't know why he wouldn't do well here that he would do well somewhere else. Second, why would anyone send a letter of recommendation like that? Unless there was something wrong that the student hasn't told us. If that is the best letter someone can find, We're nervous that there's something else there. So the scholarship's going to be affected. Now, my favorite letter of all time is one from the Olive Garden. Now, not just because I like their $9.99 pasta bowl, or the free breadsticks, or the salad, which is really good, but because we don't get letters from the Olive Garden all the time. So when we get something like this, it's going to catch our eye. And it means we're going to read it critically. And this letter summed up a student's potential for law school better than most I've ever seen. I'll read you part of it. In her time working at the Olive Garden, I awarded this student the honor of Maestro de Servicio, or Master of Service, due to an overwhelming pride and honor in her work ethic, customer service, and ability to lead the host team. She had the capability to analyze any potentially problematic situation, and in respect to both customers and coworkers, find a diplomatic solution that appealed to all. That's what lawyers do all day. They find solutions for challenging situations. This came from a general manager at Olive Garden, who I know doesn't write letters of recommendation every day. So the fact that someone took the time to clearly lay out why this applicant had credentials that matched a law school experience from their professional development as a server tells us that the student's worth investing time into on our end. So you better believe when we saw this, maximum scholarship. So again, 2 recommendations. I strongly recommend you try to keep a copy. And remember, when you're asking your recommenders for a letter, can you champion my application? All right, if you have any questions on that, please ask them now with the green Q&A button. And we're going to move forward to leadership and community impact. This is your resume. We are looking for 200 plus people who are interesting to go to lunch with. Seriously, that's what we're looking for. Because if we find a class of people who are dynamic and are fascinating, we want to get to know more, then it's going to be an amazing place to study. So here's the theme for financial aid. We are looking for people who are not only going to be great students, but who are going to be Emory lawyers for life. What does that mean? It means people who are going to be phenomenal alums and are going to want to give back to the school throughout their career. I'm not talking about writing a check every year to your school. I'm sure you're getting those solicitations from your undergrad and your high school now. Oh, please donate. Of course, everyone's excited about your potential to do that. But what we're talking about is, are you going to make an impact on your community, your legal peers, from the minute you get here till the minute you decide to stop practicing? That is important to us because we don't want you graduating and for us to say, who was that? If that happens, we're going to fail at our job. We failed. We are looking for people who come to Emory on the first day and say, I want to help change things. I want to make things better. I want to run for president of this organization. Make sure your resume tells us about your dedication to your community. You don't have to be president of any organization for us to be excited about you, but you need to show how you're going to bring your past experiences and contribute your gifts of service here to Emory. Finally, make sure you tell the truth. This may sound easier or lighthearted, but there are times when we'll read your resume and we get excited. I'll give you a great example. 2 years ago, we had what we thought was the national breakdance champion applying to law school. Now, breakdancing, the wave and the worm and all of that. We love breakdancing. At least we love talking about it. So when we read this, we were like, oh, let's look this student up on YouTube and see who he is. And then when we get on YouTube, we realize, wait a second, the student's not a national champion, but simply someone that's competed at national championships. Small distinction, and truth be told, it didn't matter to us. What mattered was that the student misrepresented themselves. So just be careful. Again, maximizing your aid with us means showing us how you're going to make an impact from the first day you're here. Now, I'm not getting many questions on my screen, which either means one, we're answering everything you need, two, you're tuning me out, or three, you're afraid that your question may not seem so adroit. Well, don't worry. Send us anything you want. We got a lot of people joining us throughout the country. Please, 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 if you have a question, make sure you're asking it. While I go on to the next factor that we look at when determining financial aid, which is putting all of the factors together and ensuring that you have Emory connectivity. So we look at all of these factors as we're determining your scholarship. And what wraps them all up in a bow is how you are going to fit here and what connectivity or impact or desire you have to come to Emory. Now, as a top 19, top 20 school, we have a lot of different programs we hope that match with you, and I wanted to quickly highlight them to help you know what we're looking for as well as you're writing your essays, putting together your spin on your application. Our oral advocacy programs are second to none. Every student at Emory has to go through a 2-week trial boot camp. So we don't care if you're going to be a dirt lawyer, that's a property lawyer, or you're going to do wills for the rest of your life, or you want to be a Supreme Court advocate. Everyone will conduct a criminal and a civil trial. Now, it's a lot of fun because we bring in professional actors, we bring in child witnesses, or child actors to serve as witnesses, and they try to trip you up on the stand and change their story and pretend to start crying. We bring in volunteer jurors, so that you have a full experience so that when you graduate, you can tell folks, I know how to conduct a trial. I've already done it. So if oral advocacy, moot court, debate, mock trial are things that drive you, you need to tell us because that makes us excited to have you with us, and it wants us to recruit you even harder to give you more financial aid. If business law is your cup of tea, or you want to be a deal lawyer, a transactional lawyer, an agent, or you really get interested in accounting and business transactions, our 2-year Center for Transactional Law and Practice is the program for you. It's a 2-year program that's part of the 3-year curriculum at Emory. And for your 2nd and 3rd year, you learn from actual practitioners at Delta, Coca-Cola, UPS, Home Depot, Porsche USA, companies here in Atlanta who send their attorneys to teach you in small groups of 3 or 4 to 7 people on how to put a contract together. Or what happens when Delta tried to do an international contract and it didn't go well. They want you to help them fix it. So the goal is after 2 years of this program with an internship or an apprenticeship at one of these companies, that you will know everything you need to add value to a deal the first day you start your job. So if business law or this excites you, let us know, because these are the kind of people we're looking for. One of my favorite programs is our Tiger program. That's a program where we take Emory students who have science backgrounds, chemistry, biology, computers, engineering, or are interested in innovation. We pair you up with Emory MBA students and Georgia Tech engineers. So you take the Georgia Tech engineer's invention or idea and you help bring that to market through the patent process over a 2-year period. There's a lot of national competitions through this program. So our students who go in here inevitably end up with high-end intellectual property and patent law jobs. So if science and technology is something that excites you, please let us know because we want you. And we're going to recruit you hard to be here, and you better believe a scholarship will be probably coming your way. We've talked about how we're a top school in the country. We're located here in Atlanta, which means that you have all the opportunities to blend our theories and practice with our Center for Professional Development to ensure that you're getting hands-on training from the minute you get here to the minute you leave. So I'll give you a great example. We learned a few years ago that our students were uncomfortable in formal interview settings. You know, when they take you to a five-star restaurant to interview you and you see like 70 forks and you're like, I don't know what to do. So now every year, all of our 1Ls go to a banquet hall and we bring down a former White House chef and protocol ambassador who teaches us how to conduct yourself formally in a business dinner situation. May seem trite, but it helps you immediately get a job you're looking for to distinguish yourself from your colleagues. I talked about blending theory and practice and being in Atlanta. There is nowhere else that you can be where you can work at all these companies and get credit while in law school. That's why you go to schools in cities like Atlanta, to intern at Delta, to work at Coca-Cola, UPS, Rubbermaid. Mercedes-Benz, I believe, is now going to be opening their U.S. headquarters in Atlanta. So you better believe our lawyers are going to be there, and you'll be able to say to folks, I've worked for them. You should hire me now. You're going to be in the classroom a lot. And we expect the students that we recruit to love the classroom experience. But you can't fall in love with the classroom experience without professors who are not only amazing scholars, but also engaging and dynamic teachers. That's what we are all about. Because we expect you to be raising your hand, to be questioning teachers, to be at their office hours, to become their colleagues and friends. It is not uncommon for you to spend evenings and dinner occasions with professors here, because everything they do is to engage you. So if that's the classroom environment that you're looking for, you need to tell us that, because those are the students that we are wanting to attract to the Emory Law community. Now look, it's a lot of work. All top law schools are. What separates us is we try to ensure that everyone has a place where they belong and they can grow and have a great social experience as well as academic. Now, we get a lot of questions. Well, does social, I'm not a big going out person, and I enjoy a cocktail, but alcohol doesn't define me. We understand that. That Emory Law community and being social does not mean going to a frat house all day. What it means is engaging meaningfully with the other people in your class, because they're going to be your colleagues for the rest of your life. So it means being active in organizations, from the Emory Food Club to the Emory Democratic Society to the Federalist Society. It means wanting to get involved in dozens of clubs. It means coming here and seeing that we don't have something that you had in your previous experience or undergrad and wanting to start it here. That's who we are looking for. And that's what we want you to tell us about when you're telling us who you are. How are you going to change the world and shape our community from the minute you get here? We've talked about Atlanta. I can't stress enough that if you want to be in a city where you are working while you're in school in substantive experiences, this is the place for you. People forget that we are a global law school. We just happen to be in Atlanta. So if you want to be in Atlanta or in the Southeast, great. You'll join 40% of our alums in the area. But 60% are all throughout the globe. If you want to be in New York, we own that market. We'll help you get there. If you want to be in D.C., we can help you there as well. Dallas, Florida, Chicago, the West Coast. We have alums everywhere, including North Dakota and Wyoming. You don't know where your path is going to lead you, so we want to make sure you have every opportunity possible. Finally, I want to talk about our full scholarship, the Woodruff Scholarship. That deadline was yesterday. However, if you are on this webinar now, we will extend the deadline until Monday for you. So we have a list of people that have signed in. If you're one of those, we will extend the deadline to apply for our full scholarship program until next Monday. This is our only full scholarship program that we have at Emory. We offer 4 a year plus a stipend to help pay for some of your books. You can learn more about this, grab your pens, at law.emory.edu/Woodruff. We require one extra nomination letter along with your application. That's all it takes to apply to be considered. Because you came to this webinar, again, the deadline was yesterday, so don't worry what it says on the website. You can submit it through Monday. If you have any questions, please ask them to us now. I am so happy that you joined us today. It is going to be exciting for me to see you walking across the aisle in about 4 years with that Emory degree, knowing that it all started here today. Good luck. I can't wait to read your application. And again, if you have any questions, we'll be online for the next few minutes.